Hi guys, and over here, I am going to be talking about an update in the Natalie Holloway case. A few months ago, the murderer actually confessed in a proffer statement and gave the family some information they have long sought for. Now, unfortunately, it raises more questions and more concerns in this case, but we are going to talk about that. In the meantime, grab yourself a cup of Bones coffee. I'm drinking an iced French vanilla coffee right now. Bones coffee has all kinds of different flavors. It's very smooth. It's wonderful whether it's hot or it's cold. But by purchasing your coffee through my affiliate link, it helps me make more videos for you. So I will say thank you in advance for that. Okay, so Natalie Holloway was a beautiful 18-year-old girl. She had graduated from her school in Alabama. She had a full scholarship to a college. She was looking forward to a bright future in the medical field, and she went on a school trip to her with all of her class, approximately 130 people. She went on this trip to Aruba, and they were all 18 years old and older, but they still had, I don't know, I think they said 7 or 8 adult chaperones as well. So this wasn't a babysitting trip. So there wasn't a lot of, a chaperone per every 2 kids or anything like that. This was a high school senior trip. And but back in 2005, they didn't babysit them too much. They did allow them a little bit of their freedom. And Holloway and a few of her friends went to a few different clubs and a few different places in the casinos, and this was the last night of their trip. It was May 30th, 2005, and they were going to have a good time before they went home. Now, the last time Natalie was seen, she was seen getting into a silver truck with Joran Vandersloot and 2 of his friends. Now, Joran Vandersloot was a Dutch nationalist who actually lived permanently on the island at his parents' estate. He kind of had free reign to do what he wanted. He was kind of a player, and people local kind of knew who he was and kind of shied away from him. There were some little undertow rumors about things with him, but nothing ever stuck. So it could be due to the fact that his father was a very powerful attorney in the area. But whatever the case may be, Vandersloot had never really got arrested or labeled as what he would later become. So we will find out that he was actually the murderer of Natalie Holloway. We will also find out that he murdered another young woman on the 5th year anniversary of Natalie's death. And we're going to find out a lot about this person. But Natalie's parents came flying in when they found out that she didn't get on the plane. So on Memorial Day weekend, the mother gets the call that no one wants to hear. Your daughter's missing. She didn't get on the plane. She's not coming home. The father also got the information. They were separated, but they both got this information, but devastating. And they both get on a plane and they both haul it out there. Now, the mother spends years trying to track down what happens, and so does the father. But what's disturbing when the mother gets there, the mother is constantly being hindered by the local authorities who say they're actively investigating, but they are not doing, of course, enough for this grieving mother. Now, within a short time, this mother has demanded to see all of the security footage. They've already labeled this Joran Vandersloot. They've already labeled him within a few hours of the mother getting there. As soon as she's seen him on the camera, she said, "Who is that?" They automatically knew who he was. Okay, so they already had this suspicious person from the very beginning. She goes and tries to talk to them, and although they were the last persons seen with her daughter, although their statements didn't add up, although their statements kept being changed constantly, nothing seemed to be done. They would be arrested and put in jail for a little while, but then they would be released because there wasn't enough evidence. And so this happened over and over and over again. And every time, by the time the FBI got involved, the Arubian police wouldn't allow them to do anything. So although the FBI has jurisdiction to investigate whatever, wherever, they don't necessarily have the ability to usurp the authority of the local authorities either. They can investigate all they want, but if they don't get in good with the local authorities and they allow them to follow through, their jurisdiction is hindered. So although the FBI was on the island with these grieving parents, although there were searches being done, although everyone had an idea that this boy knew what happened to this girl, nothing ever accomplished of it. I mean, they were just spinning in circles and nothing ever came of it. It was almost as if they were more worried about their tourism than they were justice in this case. And so this is where it gets really frustrating. If that was the end of the story, it would be bad enough. But this story continues. And in 2010, okay, so this is 5 years later, in 2010, Yoren, in all of his arrogance, decides to start contacting the Holloway family attorney and trying to get money for information about where Natalie's remains are. So he literally begins to extort the family attorney, trying to get money and more information. Well, they know what's happening. They don't believe this man. So, of course, the FBI is watching. Everything's recorded, everything's documented. And so they go all the way back to Aruba. They go down there and some cash is exchanged hands. He's going to show everybody this way, that way, this way, that way. Nothing's ever found. And then when they get back home, they're expected to wire the rest of the money, which of course they don't do. But there was already cash exchanged hands, and then Yoren messages back, "I'm sorry, I have been untruthful to you, and but I'm keeping your cash anyways." Okay, so basically, it's been 5 years. The media has gone crazy over this. And Vandersloot, throughout this whole process, just thinks this is a money-making scheme. He has gone on all kinds of interviews, claiming his innocence for several years. And then the story would change with every interview. He even co-authored a book, I heard at one point, about this. And he even said in his some of things he would be recorded later, he even said that he felt almost justified. He didn't use those terms, but basically he was saying he felt like they destroyed his life, so he felt justified in extorting them for money. Which all of this is insane. None of that makes sense. But he gets several $1,000s for them. He wanted $200,000 or something like that, but he didn't get that much. He got a few $1,000s. And then, since the FBI knows this, since everything's recorded, that is well within the jurisdiction of the U.S. And so they go after him and they are going to arrest him. Everything's lined up. The FBI is going to fly down there, pick his sorry butt up, and he's coming to the U.S. Now, this is something he does not want. He does not want to come to the U.S. because in Peru, I mean, not in Peru, in Arabia, in Aruba, there we go. In Aruba, the laws are completely different. And this is what we find, as Americans, so disturbing. There's only a 12-year statute of limitation on murder. So literally, he's just biding his time. He's just waiting. He's trying to outwait the clock, okay? Because he knows after 12 years, they can't do anything to him. And so this is his game. He knows that he's got 10 years, 12 years here that he's got to kind of keep his head down, and then he could get away with this. Well, he doesn't even do that much. He every time he can make $1 on an interview because of Natalie Holloway, he's going to do it. So not only does he kill this person, but he's making money off the story. So that is sick and twisted. But anyways, we are talking about now. He's extorted the family. It's been 5 years, and you think, okay, this is the end. So what happened for the rest of the 14 years of the story? Well, here's the problem. In 2010, he does extort the family. The FBI goes to get him. Okay. The FBI goes to get him, and he's not there. He jumps a plane and heads off to Peru. Okay. Now in Peru, he has, I don't know, I've heard one thing said that he had $10,000 he extorted from the family. Another one said he had $25,000 he extorted from the family. Whatever the case, he goes to a casino in Peru and he is trying to he's trying to gamble. He's addicted to gambling and he runs through his money pretty quickly. And this is where it gets even worse. So if it's not bad enough, hang on. He meets Stephanie Flores. Okay, she's a local and she's 21 and she is good at playing cards. Well, he is not. So he's losing his money, but she's doing pretty good. So somehow he picks up a friendship with her. He kicks in, a conversation with her, ends up taking her back to his hotel. Now, he claims to the authorities that they were going to do online gambling in his hotel room. And then he also claims that she used his laptop without his permission and found out who he really was. And she confronted him about killing Natalie Holloway. And he beat her and slammed her into the wall and basically broke her neck, and then he ended up suffocating her. So he beat her to a bloody pulp, suffocated her, and then he staged her to very promiscuously in a very bad light, and left her like that because he wanted to degrade her obviously as best as he could. So anyways, so after he's done this to the second woman, he walks out of the hotel and he had stolen all of the cash that she had with her. So he made it all the way to Chile. So that is basically the equivalent of going from coast to coast in the US. He made it all the way to Chile within about 3 days. 3 days, the body's found, and the authorities, the Peruvian authorities, aren't having it. They chase him down, they find him, they arrest him, and he gets brought back, and he is going to face the penalty for murder. And he confesses. He confesses. He says, "Yeah, I did it. I killed her, and this is what I did, and this is, you know." And so you think, okay, this is it. Again, we're 5 years into this case. He's murdered 2 people now, and we know for sure what happened on the one. We're still not sure on the other, but we are pretty sure he's murdered 2 people. This guy's going to get what's coming to him. No, no. He gets the maximum sentence outside of what is called a life sentence there. So in 2012, he's actually sentenced for the murder of Stephanie Flores. Okay, so he's sentenced for this murder, and instead of getting a life sentence, he gets 28 years, which is the maximum that they can give unless it's a life sentence. And so we're talking, this is a very young man. Okay, so he has murdered 2 people. Then the FBI is still fighting to get extradition back to the US. So they say, hey, we've got an extortion thing here too. Of course, nobody cares about extortion when he's up for murder. So anyways, he gets 28 years for that. And then he gets a couple more years tacked on here and there, because a few years later, they catch him running drugs through the prison system. So he gets a few more years tacked on. And then if that's not enough, then you think, okay, so he's going to be in there for how long? He is actually, at this point in time, before we'll go into his confession here in a minute, but at this point in time, he's looking at being released by 2045. And if that's the case, nothing else happens to this man and he gets to walk in 2045. He's only going to be 57 years old. He's not even going to be 60 years old. So he's going to be 57 years old. And that he is definitely still the same murderous creature he was before. He says he's been redeemed. You can take that for whatever you want. But he's 57 years old. If there's a slight hint of that monster that's still inside him, he's definitely still capable of hurting another woman. And so I'm sitting here going, what the heck? He's 57 years old and he's going to walk for this? Well, if that doesn't fire you up and make you mad enough, here's something else. He was going to be extradited after his 28 years sentence. He was going to be extradited to the US to face charges on the extortion. Now, with that extortion, of course, it's not going to carry a fine like murder, but it's an extortion case. He got 20 years extortion, which is exactly I believe was the max that he could get for extortion. Unfortunately, they agreed to allow it to run concurrently with the sentence he's already running because this man negotiated, says, I will tell the family exactly what happened. I will confess. I will tell exactly what happened. And then his case, he gets 20 years to run concurrently with the 28 years he's already serving. So basically, what happened on that night was, even though she was drunk and most likely drugged and everything else, Vandersloot tried to make advances on her, and she refused his sexual advantages, his advances, and he crushed her skull. He kicked her in the head so hard it knocked her unconscious, and then he crushed her skull with a cinder block, and then threw her into the water. And so he gets all of this information. And if you hear his confession online, you can tell there's no emotion in it. He talks about the collapsing of her facial structure and all this stuff. And it's like he's talking about brushing his hair. It's like, he's like, no big deal. He's like, okay, this and this and this. And then I did this and she made me mad and she wouldn't give me sex. So as if this is a logical thing to do. And this is what this person did. So here's the deal. As of right now, Joran Vandersloot is back in a, he's in a Peruvian jail, which we have heard that those are terrible. They are some of the worst prisons in the world. And I'm like, good. I feel sorry for the guy. But he's only there until 2045. So you're thinking, okay, he's still going to be 57 years old, and he's not really facing justice for Natalie Holloway's death. And this is where I feel like it is so wrong, but I can understand the family, under their concept of this. The mother has been fighting the unknown for 18 years by the time she got this information. She is so desperate for the answers that she's willing to say okay on this. The man's in prison for a while, but at least she knows what happened to her daughter. Now, to me, on the outside, I'm not the mother that has been tormented for 18 years. On the outside, I feel like the system has allowed a murderer to again extort the family. Because what has happened is he didn't get any monetary gain this time, but he got to where he's not going to have 20 years on top of the 28 years. So they're running concurrently. So they're running at the same time. So he's still going to get out by the time he's 57 years old. He's not going to get out, he's not going to die in prison. So basically, he still extorted the family because they're so desperate for information. And, this goes into the whole ethical debate on, is this proper thing to do? And so on a moral standard, you think, absolutely not. He needs justice. He should have another 20 years past that. He should have this. He should have that. But then we're also on the same, teeter-totter here of morality. You're thinking, yeah, but we're also sentencing that poor mother and father to another 20 years of torture. And so you're sitting, where's the answer? All I know is the answer seems like there should be something a little better that we could do for this family. And yet this is the way it works in Aruba. So basically, I've heard this man be labeled a sociopath. Okay. And a sociopath and a psychopath are two different things. Now, they both have lack of empathy, seem to have no normal human affection. They have no, seemingly no emotion outside of anger and rage, but they're two whole different animals. And this is where I think people have labeled him a sociopath several times in the media because he has this lack of empathy and he has this lack of, human capacity to care. And that's not the same. A sociopath is actually has a lot of the same tendencies as a psychopath. Okay. But a sociopath actually is something more created by childhood trauma, by abuse, and different things like that. A psychopath is someone that's just hardwired that way. And there's always the debate between nature versus nurture, where in reality, psychopath is more natural, and sociopath is more nurture. And so I do not believe, given this person's upbringing, that he had any major trauma. He was from a well-off family. He was 17 years old and had basically his own place. He had the guest house to himself. He had the free reign to do whatever he wanted to do, and obviously, whatever he did, he could get off of doing this because of possibly his father's being such a high-powered attorney and understanding the law. And so basically what you've got someone who I believe was more born that way and less conditioned that way. So I would label him more a psychopath instead of a sociopath. Of course, there's all kinds of intricacies about that. We could learn more about his childhood and find out, that maybe it goes the other way. But in this situation, I feel like what angers me the most is the fact that he was still, after all of these years, it's been 19 now, but 18 years when he actually finally confessed. I believe now we have gotten to the point where our rules and regulations, our law, there we need something to change, and unfortunately, I believe the US did the best that they could because we don't have any authority in Aruba. We don't have any authority on what they do. But you also need to know, as an American traveling somewhere else, if something happens to you, it's up to their guidelines. It's not up to your home country's guidelines. And so by going to this place in the first place, you need to understand the differences there. And whatever happens now, the Aruban authorities did ask for the documentation in his proffer statement, in his confession. They're going to review it and see if there's something else that they are missing, but they still say, as of this point, he's got the maximum sentence we can give him. And so we need to understand this when you are traveling. I've just recently gone over a recent case of Riley Strain. He was traveling to another town, but it was still kind of a situation where they were partying, and he wandered. He ended up getting kicked out of a bar and tried to walk to the hotel by himself and ended up dead in the river. There was no one with him. And we need to stop that. We need to make sure and take care of our friends and the people that are with us. We need to not allow that inebriated person to be alone. Now, it may be aggravating for the person. It may be, they'd be like, stop babysitting me, whatever. But if somebody had babysitted Natalie Holloway a little more, whether she liked it or not, she would have most likely still been here. And so it goes back to the same concept that I had with the Riley Strain case. We need to care a little more as a society for our friends when they are not in a safe state. When you're inebriated, you're going to make decisions that you wouldn't normally make in a clear head, in a clear state of mind. So make sure, if you're out on the town with your friends, don't let her get in that silver car with a couple of guys that you don't know. Don't let them do this. It might make them angry, and there may be a problem, but the alternative is drastic. So you're there with Natalie, and you make her mad, and she's aggravated at you because you stopped her from getting in that car, and she's angry with you for whatever. Well, at least she'd still be alive, and you wouldn't have to live wondering what if for the rest of your life. So today I want to talk to you guys about this because, yes, the case has been solved. We know exactly what happened to her, considering, all the ocean and where she was. She's not washed up on the beach for the last 19 years. She's obviously not going to. She was obviously put out too far. But it goes back to another situation of safety. Are you safe when you travel, when you are alone? And this is where you've really got to pay attention to your friends, especially if they're inebriated. So I hope you enjoy this video. I'll have more for you on YouTube. Make sure and like and subscribe, and I'll bring you another case next time. Bye. Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you.